Let's see how much I remember of this, 5 days later. So we've dragged Porter and Maxwell on the stand. Was the case too much for you? Wanted my help that badly? You could have just asked instead of sending the police after me, you know. Kinda rude. I'm doing this because it's probably the only way to get the truth out of you. Is a witness like an acquaintance of yours, Mr. Skye? Yes. But I can assure you I called her for a good reason, Your Honor. The great guardian himself. A plain man like me can't even express how honored he is to be in your presence. Nothing strengthens authority so much as silence. Well, and sitting on a high seat in an absurdly large hall like this, I guess. Yeah, I'm just gonna be honest here. Otherwise, Mr. Lie Detector over there will get unfriendly, right? Quite. I already regret summoning you. Which means he'll probably be even more of a jerk to me in turn. Great. I mean, from what we've seen of her so far, Talia would be the exact type of person to just aggressively, pointlessly lie and try and kill Orpheus. Let's just get to the point. We've wasted enough time as is. You've been following the trial so far, yes? Yes. I'm glad you found the culprit so easily, Mr. Justice. I like the part where we got called to the stand for absolutely no reason. Good. State your names and occupations, then. Actually, include your spells as well. You do realize they have no obligation to explain those. Their choice. It's just a request. A request? Fun. I'm gonna go ahead and not tell you because you've been so cold. I wasn't really interested in yours, anyway. I go by the name of Talia Porter. My job, well, entertainer? I also try to save people that get trapped in cages, I guess. I won't ask. Second witness? Yes, my name is Damon Maxwell. I'm just a plain merchant running a plain store, Maxwell's Marvels. Surprisingly, I'm not quite sure whether that statement was fully the truth. Well, it should not be all concerned. If it was a lie, it wasn't a large one. Also, regarding the defense's request, my spell lets me slowly freeze water inside of a glass or bottle, provided I touch it with my hand. Wait.
Objection!
Glad you went ahead and said it. Guess you didn't really pay attention. Guess you fell into a trap. What you just said can't be true. That can't be true.
Objection!
Please, you'd have the audacity to say something like that in front of me. The witness told no lies to this court. Truthful melody is flawless. Whoa! Are you suggesting I failed to spot how this witness said something untrue? Not quite. I'll give you that much credit. However, there's a very good reason why his spell simply cannot be what he just said. It's because of something that somebody else told us earlier. Interesting. Tell us then, who said it? Who said something that creates an issue with this spell description? Our last witness.
Take that!
The previous witness said this when I asked him about his spell. I can freeze water in a glass if I touch it. And now you're saying your spell is the same thing? How likely is that? Yeah. Orpheus, I haven't played this game for 5 days. Even I remember that.
Objection!
6 days. The witness is telling the truth. So did the previous witness. No matter how unlikely it is, it must therefore be true. Then there might be a serious problem with your spell. But this proves that them having identical spells is not just unlikely, but impossible. The original spell book? No poo people have the same spell? There have never been 2 humans with identical spells.
Take that!
It's a well-known basic rule about spells. A spell is tied to a person's identity, like fingerprints or mysterious DNA. It's ruled out. 2 people cannot have identical spells. Can you say that for sure? All people are also born with a spell, right? Yet there have been exceptions. Though I guess in that case you concluded the exception wasn't human. I'm not sure what exception you're referring to, but I maintain that these 2 people stated the truth. Do you have a better explanation than this being an unprecedented case of identical spells? I hope you're not trying to suggest that I'm lying. No. Probably wouldn't be wise to go there. It's more likely one of these two witnesses is deceiving us.
Objection!
How often do I need to repeat myself? There is no escape from my truthful melody. If one of these witnesses did not speak with the conviction of the truth, I would have known. Alright, so they're telling the truth. What if the truth itself can be worded deceptively?
Objection!
I hope you're not trying to take this to some absurd conclusion. Truthful melody can sense if someone dodges the question too. For example, when I asked them if they're the culprit, they knew I was referring to the case at hand. Oh, I'm not the culprit of some completely different case. That sort of thing wouldn't work. Willful misinterpretation of the implications of a question are not possible. Why? Because they know they're not actually being honest, and I can hear it. Okay, so I guess that's out then. What else is there? They actually answered the question correctly. In other words, what they say is actually a truthful description of their spell ability. However, that doesn't mean it's a comprehensive description. What? For example, I could say something like, my spell allows me to combine an apple with another apple to make a big apple. This is perfectly within my spell's capabilities. It leaves out what else I can do with it. Hey, you never let me try one of those big combined fruits. Trust me, you don't want that. If I undo the combination after you ate it, things might get weird. Very interesting, for once. True, truthful melody can only catch lies that have actually been stated. Omissions cannot be judged, so I need to interrogate quite aggressively on occasion. In that sense, your assertion may be valid. Regardless, your claim is completely irrelevant. What? As I've noted, the witnesses are under no obligation to explain their spells. One of them chooses to give an incomplete description, it is within their rights. Correct. For more than 2 centuries, this right has been important to the people. Keeping their spell information private is everyone's right in these halls. Unless there is a good reason for suspicion, it is not to be violated. Such a reason does, of course, not exist. You've got to be joking. There's plenty of good reasons. Really? Can you provide that? Can you prove that their spells are relevant to our case? That's not that easy if I don't know what they are. I can prove that they might be relevant. Take another look at the spell book. It states right here that the spell can be pretty much anything. I repeat, literally anything. What if one of their spells does something absolutely unimaginable that screws with the whole case?
Objection!
It's kind of weak, but unexpected move. However, don't think you can mislead the court. While the spell can have many forms, they usually strike a balance. Something like time travel is promptly limited to 10 seconds. Whatever spell they could have would have appropriate limitations. None of them is going to be able to alter all of reality like some godlike being. There is nothing within reasonable expectation that would have any bearing on the case. Therefore, neither of them is going to be able to remotely kill the victim neither of them is going to be able to remotely kill the victim and erasing all traces of it. I'm inclined to disagree. With the right level of imagination, a lot of stuff is possible. Is that so? Very well then. Give me one reasonable example of a spell that would cast doubt on the case against the defendant. If you can just come up with one that raises the possibility of another culprit, it may qualify as the good reason you've needed. Just one? Challenge accepted. I'll just experiment around with ideas. Alright, the defense is ready to propose a few suggestions. That's what it takes to just get these guys to reveal what their real spells are. We know at least one of them was near the scene, so it doesn't even have to be some remote spell. I'm looking forward to what you're going to suggest instead. What if a spell was illusions, killing eyes, magical mind control, or magical evidence eraser? I would vote for mind control. Mind control. Come again. If the defendant was mind controlled, it all makes sense. Maybe the victim was controlled, too. You're serious? Give me a moment. You could argue it's not a plausible spell because it's too strong, but there's lots of proof that the victim's actions that night seemed kind of odd. Yes, this is true.
Objection!
Quite the idea, but I'm afraid it won't do. The defendant has given an accurate account of what transpired that night. His memory is perfect. Also, how does this relate to the witness's description of their spell again? Freezing water and mind controlling someone aren't even closely related. A person can only have one spell. I will remind you that, as many times as I have to. The part about having to touch the glass is true, so even if you were to argue that the spell was something absurd, like I can make anyone with anything do anything, there would most likely be a strong limit on the distance. Certainly nothing they could do without even being on the scene. But it does not really work with her description no matter what. And is thus ruled out. I guess. Good. We're in agreement then. Any other suggestions? Oh, okay. Our first one is denied. Illusions. Simple. The culprit had some ability to produce an illusion. Explain. Say the victim the defendant saw was just an illusion. He was actually already dead, or killed later. The defendant merely believed he killed someone when he actually didn't.
Objection!
That's not the best straw you're grasping. What do you say to the fact that the defendant had actual blood on him? Easy enough. This illusion may very well fool all the senses. I see. With spells, such a thing is possible. But it's not the spells of either of the two witnesses. Remember that a person can only ever have one spell. What was the description again? You can freeze water in a glass if you hold it. And even if that was convenient wording, it does not entail all his spell could do. It'd still be part of it. A person can only have one spell, after all. So if they said is the truth, there is no room for doubt. Whatever they do does not merely create the illusion of frozen water. No matter how good the illusion is, it will be different from actually influencing reality. We can therefore safely rule it out. Taking you won't accept me, claiming that they can simply influence reality then. Two problems. The obvious one, such a spell would be too powerful. Be within the realms of omnipotence. Something vague like that has never been anyone's spell. You only ever do one specific thing. The second problem is that the stated limit. If touching the glass of water is necessary, it'll probably be necessary to touch the fake victim, too. Nobody saw such a thing, of course. There are other really obvious issues. Let's not delve into them. Yeah, it might be harder to get my point across here than I thought. What is the defense of any other suggestions? Killing eyes. Eyes that kill on view. Considering the Jack incident, something like this is not impossible. It's a balanced spell. Of course it couldn't be exactly the same, but something similar could work. So you're saying something killed the victim from a distance by looking at them? Sure. Someone could cut the victim in half from a distance. Well, if they did so at the right moment, it might somehow lead to the result we got.
Objection!
Not a bad consideration if we once again ignore or just accept a few things. Unfortunately for you, this assertion is impossible. We've already established that the witness only arrived at the scene after the encounter. He didn't see the actual crime, and therefore could not have influenced it. A spell like this does also not at all match up with the description we have. Yep. One only if you touch it. Distance. And if we completely ignore what my truthful memory revealed to us, there is still one major issue. The police found no traces of spell radiation on or inside the victim's body. In other words, it's impossible the deadly wound was caused directly by a spell. This is a fact. Tricky. It seems to me your theory has thus been denied. I suppose so. What was the defense of any more suggestions? Well, okay. Something that just magically erases all evidence.
Objection!
Okay, now we're getting into ridiculous. A fascinatingly vague yet effective idea, if a little bizarre. If a spell that erases cannot possibly also create... Could not have both erased all evidence of the crime and also set up the defendant as the killer.
Objection!
True. It's possible it could replace. It also works similar to my spell, where you could later undo what you did. As fascinating as these ideas are, I do not see how they could be applied to solve your problem here. True, it might explain why they can freeze water. By replacing the water with frozen water, or something along the lines, I suppose. A friend of mine had a spell that did something quite similar. Variations of that could exist. Ah yes, Dr. Ferens and his inconsistent information. I do believe the limitations on it are quite severe. However, an erased or replaced object should still show signs of spell radiation. Spots at the scene that had traces of radiation did not particularly suggest tampering. What if they could even erase that? Then we have a problem. We can only work with the facts presented to us. If someone has a spell that erases all proof, they can effectively just commit the perfect crime. In a court of law, you would not get far with such a claim. Even if one of the witnesses had such a spell, accusing them would be impossible. Well, but it might show there are alternate possibilities.
Objection!
Are you suggesting we dismiss the conclusive evidence against the defendant? Because of an unlikely possibility, that it's all been fabricated? Truly, if you operated like that, nobody would ever be convicted, confession or not. I think it's clear that if someone has a spell like that, you have already lost. Guess you're right. As such, the suggestion is denied. Any more? Looks like this won't work. It appears the defense is done. As you can see, none of your suggestions made it any more likely. And knowing the exact spell of these witnesses would help us. Truthful melody and the traces spells leave are pretty limiting. Damn, the spell description can't really be too far off the mark. If the spell was anything too fancy, it should have left more traces. I now have a pretty good idea about the spell of one of these witnesses, but I got nothing. You can have your privacy rights for now. What a show! You're letting us all down, Linus. Are we finally allowed to testify now? Of course. I apologize for the delay caused by the defense. No worries, I'm used to it. Keep in mind that even minor lies hurt my concentration. So please tone down on those kinds of comments. Huh, that sounds inconvenient. Guess you can only hang out with boring people. One can be interesting without relying on deception and lies. Your testimony. What does still sound kind of boring, knowing what's true and what isn't just like that. And pretty painful if we go by my estimate of how many people are lying daily. A plain man like me does not feel comfortable when he is keeping the court waiting. Okay, the witnesses are hereby asked for testimony about their relation to this case. Well, here it is. Whatever these two have been keeping to themselves, they can't keep hidden on this stand. Happening upon a murder. I'll admit to it. It's true. Two of us left Safe Haven that night. Yep. We walked around the ruins, sticking together most of the time. It was sometime then, when I spotted a figure on the street ahead of us. And then we saw someone get cut in half. Quite the mess. After that, we fled the scene and called the police. Interesting. I think you tried to keep to yourself, alright? Sorry for the cut, just needed a break. Wow, so there's even more eyewitnesses. Mr. Justice, you were aware of their testimony? I did not have the time to question them in full detail. While their relation was apparent, they ultimately add nothing new to the case. If anything, it just makes it even more decisive. We'll see about that after I cross-examine them. To be fair, I don't have high hopes for this one. The prosecutor didn't speak up, so it probably checks out as true. Because they alternated statements, I can't even use elementary combination here. Well, I could, but result would not be helpful, and it's potentially unsafe. Let's see if we can. Very well, go ahead, Mr. Sky. I wish you the best of luck in discovering something new. Thanks, Your Honor. But again, there's actually one big glaring issue with this testimony, which is what I need to make up for the lack of progress a bit ago. Happening upon a murder. I'll admit to it. It's true.
Hold it!
Okay, so we don't even get the option to use elementary combination. Simple question. Why? Is there an issue with taking a walk? Are you saying you just took an innocent walk in the ruins outside? Maybe. Why'd you hide it then? That's, well, it was such an unsettling experience. But I swear we weren't out there because we had anything to do with the murder. That's right. Aside from witnessing the murder, we didn't see or do anything noteworthy. An innocent walk, huh? That's so obviously a lie. They're telling the truth. Of course they are, but there must be some trick here. I could ask them to state it outright. Talia would probably keep dancing around the issue. Better just straight up show them with the facts that it was all but innocent. Yep, we walked around the ruins, sticking together most of the time. Just happened to be out there, sure. While it's an odd coincidence, Truthful Melody confirmed these two are not involved in the murder. A plain man like me would never have anything to do with that. So, what exactly do you mean you stuck together most of the time? We were together the entire time, always within each other's sight. After all, one of them could have attacked at any moment. I needed to stay close to Miss Porter so she could teleport both of us to safety. I see. Did you have any encounters? Not with them, but it was sometime then, when I spotted a figure on the street ahead of us.
Hold it!
So we have the obvious first answer here. A figure. Could you describe them? It was very dark. I could make out the silhouette. It was a man, an adult. Could have been the victim. It's very possible. I couldn't swear to it, but the shape resembled him. From where exactly would you have seen this? Well, I don't know the exact layout of the area. There were abandoned buildings everywhere. It was easy to get lost, especially since it was dark. Someone with average orientation skills like mine could not answer such a question reliably. It becomes very obvious if you take a look at the diagram. Given how they did not run into those other witnesses, the only location that makes sense is the wide street at the bottom. Well, I couldn't confirm it for certain. Seems to add up well enough. It's also where the previous witness supposedly felt the presence of another person. It stands to reason that he noticed one of these two. Oh, right. That seems to add up then. Can we get to the important part? Then we saw someone get cut in half. Quite the man. In half. Did you see the defendant? Yes, as a matter of fact. He was holding the blade. And you saw the very moment of the crime. Well, it certainly looked like it. The figure that looked like the victim rushed toward the defendant. You know I'm good at recognizing faces. What I managed to see definitely looked like theirs. Just in case you're trying to suggest a substitution trick. Would you swear it was the defendant and the victim? Nope. The shape of their faces definitely left little room for doubt.
Objection!
The defense is aware that everything matches up with the defendant's confession, yes? I am. Casting you down on the events of the crime is going to be difficult right now. Something more obviously questionable about this testimony. After that, we fled the scene and called the police.
Hold it!
Oh. You were the anonymous caller, then? Well, no. I ran away. Miss Porter called the police. She was able to return to town faster than me, after all. She teleported back. Yes, I'm afraid we got split up in the confusion. I just wanted to get away from that scene. As far as I could. So I'd probably have already gone before Miss Porter thought of teleporting back. By the time I got back to town, she was waiting for me and had informed me that she had called the police. There is something backing up their story, aside from truthful Melanie. What? However, there is no point in wasting time with technicalities like that. Of course. The problem here should be obvious, no? I suppose they're flat out stating something that's impossible given what we know. Just throw the facts in their face and show them. Well, I suppose I'll do that. Overall, they're keeping things awfully vague, though. It'd be worth the press and try to see if I can get more information before pointing out the issue. Definitely leaving out a lot of the details here. See if I can dig up anything. So this is the obvious point of concern. As I try to stall the first time as he's turning online saves. I did click the save button, right? Oh, here it goes. There we go. Jesus, that took a while. Gate records.
Objection!
Let's think about this for a second. You claimed we went outside of town for a completely harmless walk. I don't even need to go into why I doubt it was just a walk. It should have been impossible for you two to be out of town in the first place. What? Impossible? You could hardly mean that. Or maybe I don't. Remember what we know from the gatekeepers, and the records left by the gatekeepers. If you left town like regular, upstanding citizens, your name should be on this list. Ah! That's your argument? I think you know there's a very simple explanation for that. We left another way. First of all, that's a felony. Your walk was all but innocent in nature. For some reason you felt it was necessary to hide the fact you left town at all. We also cannot simply accept your testimony unless we know exactly how you left. Let's not forget they're not lying. I did leave town for a fact. I don't care. It makes no sense. The wall's under permanent supervision for breaches. There's even an anti-air spell preventing anyone to pass over it. And of course, constant patrols to check for tunnels. There's no way for them to leave. There must be an explanation why your spell didn't pick up a lie here. That is rather odd. Truthful Melody supposedly failed? Again? No, they said they took a walk with no noteworthy events except for the murder. No matter how you look at it, that rules them out for leaving it. That rules out them leaving out some ulterior motive. You're saying because they said nothing fishy, the walk was innocent in nature. I think I know why they are able to deceive us. Because... that is what they ended up doing. So either that is what they ended up doing, or that isn't what they really did. I accept it. What they said is completely true now. This has ended up taking a more or less innocent walk. However, it's only because they happened upon the murder. Who's to say they didn't have their own objective in mind, and were interrupted in it? Because they suddenly witnessed a murder. They felt it best to abandon their own plans. So what? If they abandoned it, it obviously couldn't have been as bad as murder. Since they didn't end up doing it, it can't be important to the case. Insist, it is important. Of course it's important. What do the witnesses have to say about the matter? We are not obligated to comment on this, are we? Actually, since it might have been a crime you were planning, this is complete conjecture. I am not going to accept this. Chances are the witnesses will lie, straining myself unnecessarily. Oh, while not even focusing on the important matters. What might they have been wanting to do out there? The defense even present a reasonable suggestion? Okay, give me a second to think this over. Whoa! Thinking time! Alright, let's think this over carefully. These two weren't out there for murder. There had to be something else they intended to do. Something illegal. Otherwise there'd be no point in hiding it. I think it wasn't to kill someone then. It's probably to kill someone, kill something, find something, do something in secret. Do something in secret? It'd definitely be the best place to go for that. No, that doesn't work. Sure, they'd have to go outside for it. There'd be no need to hide it. After all, anything that happens outside of town is outside our jurisdiction. Well, it doesn't involve the murder. If it doesn't involve the murder of one of our citizens, even if they were there to conduct some dangerous experiment, it'd be perfectly fine to admit. Let's be a better train of thought here. Alright. Find something. Not a bad thought. Problem with this is, this wouldn't exactly be illegal either, is it? Or is it? Is there anything that could help me figure out if this might involve something illegal? Outcast? I'll try this would help. That'd be something I can use for reference here. Okay. Monster Guide, perhaps. No. Okay, I'm at a loss. So here's the answer. I have no clue why. We're gonna find out why. It's the spellbook. Looking at this for reference, which spell out might give me a clue here. Okay. Freedom Clause. Oh, for safety reasons, it's forbidden to bring anything that does not originate within the town back inside. Privacy, keep it secret. So it's gotta be the Freedom Clause. Not allowed to take anything from outside back inside. They intended to smuggle something into town, they obviously couldn't use the gate. It'd be stopped right then and there, or figured out later. If they just used it to leave, it looks suspicious when they never return through it. Alright, this actually seems to start sounding plausible. Would anything give me any idea what they might have been looking for? Monster Guide. Now we're getting somewhere. Maxwell and his interest in slicers. The open page of the Monster Guide. Told me something interesting, didn't he? He was working on a few inventions. I think he even mentioned that he needed better material for his experimental drill. In other words, they wanted to smuggle this. A slicer arm. Solved. They wanted to smuggle in a slicer arm for his invention. It's the hardest material we know of. He had the Monster Guide open in order to study their weaknesses and prepare to take one down. Of course they couldn't pass through the gate. Hey, I think I've got it. Tell me if I'm right. You two were trying to secretly smuggle something into town. Mr. Maxwell, you were obviously interested in a certain material. A slicer arm, to be exact. That's... You knew it's illegal, so the gate was out of the question. That's why you left some other way. Just from that, you managed to figure us out? Interesting. Suppose it's slightly plausible. It's fine. A plain man like me can no longer stand to keep it a secret. It's true, we went outside to hunt down a slicer and take back its arm. The idea was to use it for my machine. It felt like the right thing to do, as it would have been helpful to many people. I was bothered by the fact that it was against the law, of course, but it is sometimes hard for a plain man to resist curiosity. Miss Porter was really helping me out. I am entirely to blame for this. I felt like I had a decent plan to acquire one of their arms, but I felt safer with her accompanying me, just to get us out of trouble if some things went wrong. And that is all. Mr. Maxwell, it may have been a harmless thought in your mind, however. The attempt of bringing even just a part of one of them into safe haven is an extreme risk to all citizens. You'll be let off with a warning this time, but I urge to be careful about not repeating it. As for a leaving of town through means other than a gate, both of you will have to be held responsible. A hefty fine for both should be appropriate. Understood, Great Guardian. Hey! You're dragging us here to testify about a murder and we end up getting fined? Yes. Well, thanks, Linus. You're welcome. I'm sure it'll be good medicine. Humble pie. I shouldn't really be one to talk. What she's helping me with is kinda illegal as well, after all. Oh. Old technology is banned? However, the witnesses are right about one thing. This didn't have anything to do with the murder. It doesn't change a thing about it. It ultimately didn't really change much, nor did it create any new problems. As such, I suggest we amend the testimony and move on. Return to the testimony after all this? He's trying to pass this off as non-consequential. But the question is he right? Did the motive for going outside really not create a new problem? The defense completely disagrees. I disagree completely. All the other. We either agree or we disagree 150%. Motive actually creates a new huge problem with our whole testimony. First of all, we still don't even know how they left town. But I know you consider that irrelevant, so show the court why their motive for going outside does not match up with our testimony. Go ahead. They went outside to hunt a slicer. There's a huge contradiction. We want the world map, right? Where the slicers show up in the east, but in the scene of the crime was the west, where haunters rule.
Take that!
Curious, if you believe your confession, something about the testimony of these two witnesses feels wrong, because they shouldn't have been anywhere near the crime scene. Yeah, huh? Pretty simple logic, really. Slicers are found in the east, not the west. If you're truly hunting a slicer, just what even was your business at the crime scene? What are you talking about? I mean, we knew that slicers were in the east ruins. That's exactly where we went, didn't we? Wait, what? Is that where the crime took place? You never mentioned. No, it didn't. Witnesses, are you serious? This makes absolutely no sense! You're saying you actually witnessed all of this in the East Ruins? Well, this is where we went. Anything else really wouldn't have made much sense, as the defense said. How is that not a lie? Shit! Objection! So the East the East evidence is coming into play after all. I think it's clear that there's still more to this case. But that's complete nonsense. Definitely witnessed this crime, and the place it happened was definitely the West. Assuming they actually went to the East ruins, then what would they even have witnessed? Also a good question. If they're telling the truth, which they are according to you. And it's kind of hard to say. According to everyone else, the crime took place in the West. There's no question about that. Then you have to wonder, if they witnessed something completely different. I'd like to note that I discovered a bloodstain in that place of the ruins. Whoa, when did you go there? I'd rather not go into that. It was stupid. Found a bloodstain there? Why wasn't I informed of this? My bad. Anyway, this suggests that something might have happened there.
Objection!
Without proper examination of your supposed bloodstain, we can hardly accept this. You're honest, but you might have been mistaken. Well, you can't deny it might have been related to what these two witnesses saw. What's important now is to figure out whether these two witnessed the crime, or something completely different. I suggest they give a second, more detailed testimony. We might be able to tell whether their version matches up with what we've heard about it so far. The prosecution accepts the proposal. Hell yeah. This is fucking... I love this. Two witnesses will be giving a more detailed description of their encounter. No details to be left out, please, no matter how minor it might be in appearance. This is starting to look like we're going somewhere interesting. Hey, not my fault if the prosecution is in such a hurry, Your Honor. Fine, we'll give you the full version. Everything we heard, saw, or felt during that time. Yes, I apologize for my vagueness. A plain man like me didn't want to take up more of your precious time than necessary. Please, just simply do go ahead and testify. Still rushing them, I see. Hell yeah. East versus West. It's definitely the East ruins we were headed to in order to find a slicer. Anyway, we definitely saw it. A man was standing in the middle of the place, and the defendant sliced right through his body with that blade. I was so shocked. It was a gunshot. I don't remember clearly what happened afterwards. Mr. Maxwell told me to call the police, which I did. Well, it's definitely a little more detailed, but as far as I can tell, there do not seem to be any major inconsistencies. Surely enough, they seem to have witnessed the defendant cut through the victim. If you ignore that they apparently were in the completely wrong location, sure. There has to be a sensible explanation for this. I also disagree on the no inconsistencies part. Not until I've cross-examined them, at least. That's right. You feeling it now? I'm going to have a turnabout. Seize it. Keep pushing him to the ropes in the next round. Sure, Coach. Well, it's true that I finally discovered a huge inconsistency. We'll see how far I can take this. Alright.
Hold it!
Well, that just can't be right. With all due respect, you just said it yourself. We had no reason to be in the West. All the reason to go East. Can you tell me about what route you took?
Objection!
I seem to recall the point of this testimony. Was to determine whether these two witnessed the same events. Questioning the witnesses about events prior to the murder will not help with that. Well, it might still be helpful. At some point we'll have to settle on whether this happened in the East or West. And that point isn't now. After all, you cannot prove where they actually went. For the moment, the only thing we can do is take their word for it. Someone who's in such a hurry, he sure wants to take it slowly now. Well, I get it. For once, this might actually tear a huge hole in his case. Well, until there's any way to show that these evidence made no sense in the East, or that it's highly unlikely things would have gotten the way they did there. Keeping the difference between the two places in mind, it seemed possible that what they witnessed could have happened way in the east. Oh, we got a yes-no already. Sure, but I don't really see why not. One ruin is like the other. It could probably have happened in the east as well. Alright, I'll focus on the rest of the testimony for now.
Hold it!
Definitely saw what? We're getting to that, you know. Could have gotten to it sooner. Rude much? Little build-up. Has it never heard a performance? Miss Porter, someone has died. Treating a trial like some sort of performance is hardly appropriate. Oh, my bad. I get the feeling that you're still not taking this seriously. We're all pretty much set on who did it anyway. There's never even enough time to do all the nothing you want. Might as well get back to it as soon as possible, you know? What? The defense suggests to the prosecution to not attempt to make sense out of Miss Porter. She is very likely just trying to be annoying for no reason. Oh, someone thinks he knows me well. Even though there's so much you don't understand. Well, she appears convinced that's true. No surprise. Go on then, to your actual testimony. Mr. Maxwell, if you would. Right, we saw it. Man was standing in the middle of the place and...
Hold it!
That man was the victim. Yes, I'm pretty sure it was Mr. Ronos. It was a man, the shape of his face. Definitely looked like him. And he was standing there in the center of the place. Yes, that's what I remember. He was just standing there. He didn't do anything. Look at anything. And no. He was really just there. He seemed to be facing toward us. That might have been my imagination. Curious. What happened next? Well, suddenly, it should be obvious, but let me say it. Naturally. I was under the impression that the victim rushed at him. Did he? Can't say I remember it that well. But now that you mention it, yeah, sure. The man sort of rushed at him. Is there something wrong, Mr. Maxwell? It's, no, nothing. In other words, something is definitely wrong here. Miss Porter, can you elaborate on the man getting sliced in half? That's exactly what it sounds like. What, you want the gory details? The teenager held the blade and the man was split into two nice halves. I guess there was some momentum with the guy rushing at him involved, because half the body flew right over the kid, with blood splattering everywhere. Quite the mess. Well, thanks for clarifying. What did the defendant do after that? Oh well, he stood there for a bit, probably in shock. But that he seemed to run for some place to the right. I think that guy that was on the stand before us told you the same. True. Why did Maxwell react like that? Is something wrong with this? I think so. I don't think what you just said adds up that nicely. Really? Isn't this all stuff you already knew? If there's a problem, I take it you will proceed to show us. Sure. Shows a problem with her description. He was just decapitated, right? Okay, that's an easy one. That's a curious way to word it, you know. Not bad. You start to understand the art of being cryptic. You start to understand the art of being cryptic for a couple of seconds. That wasn't my intention at all. We'll get straight to the issue. Describe the killing as a man getting sliced in half. But his actual killing was just decapitated. He also noted that the victim's upper half of the body flew over the defendant. So, okay. Pretty sure the police found the body in two pieces. Sure, so far so good. except for the fact that the victim was decapitated.
Objection!
That doesn't contradict with what she... Wait. Yeah. The way she worded it, the body was more or less split into two equal halves. Why would you say the upper half instead of the head? That's something you would only say if he had been cut through the torso instead. But that's madness. She must have meant it that way. Despite all odds, it must have simply been her expressing it oddly. Miss Porter, care to clarify? Well, it was somewhere around there, I suppose. Around where? And when did he get angry, you know? Somewhere around the stomach? That's where he got cut. Still got that clearly burned into my mind. He rushed from right to left, right into the blade. And there you have it. That's impossible. We know his head was cut off. The rest of his body was undamaged. Certainly. It appears to not match our criteria at all. In other words, this supports these witnesses saw something entirely different.
Objection!
Seem pretty certain about the faces, though.
Objection!
Fairly certain, yes. But that's still not absolutely certain. You have to trust the evidence. The victim was cut at the neck. Theirs apparently wasn't. The face definitely looked like the victim's, though. I think I recall it now a little better. That was that faint line, yeah. Faint line? The scar. As he rested the defendant, he spotted something like a scar on his cheek. Well, that's curious. The only person with a scar in this case is Mr. Ronos. The person she saw must have definitely been the victim then.
Objection!
Wait, Mr. Sky, think about this carefully. Don't you think there's a problem with what she just said? A problem? Oh, What? I'm just reporting the facts as they are, you know? No, Mr. Justice might be right. Something odd about what you just said. What are you talking about? I saw a scar. The victim's the only one with a trademark scar, right? Well, no question there, but... Did you even see that scar? Is there a problem with me seeing it? There is, all things considered. Somebody in your position should not have been able to spot that detail. Especially not at the moment you mention. You mean to talk about positions? What's your favorite? Let's stay on topic. Mr. Justice meant that you shouldn't have seen the scar because it wasn't facing you then. Because the victim was charging at the killer. How odd. You said you saw the scar when the victim was facing the defendant. It just happens to be the moment where this shouldn't have been possible. Why not? It's exactly when I wouldn't see anything else, right? No, think about it. Your position, you would only have seen the victim's profile, his left side. Oh. Same idea, but with the scars on the victim's right cheek. You saw the scar, something was seriously wrong. Wait. If you just don't want it to be the victim, then I can't help you either. This does, of course, support the fact that they saw an entirely different person.
Objection!
Still possible, Miss Porter, just imagine the scar. Mr. Ronos' scar. Oh, hi, Mills.
Objection!
Admitted, it doesn't work in her favor. The facts are just getting more conclusive. Fair that she also saw the victim get cut in the completely wrong place.
Objection!
Well, it's not like the defendant ever confirmed where he cut the victim. I don't think you can just get away with that excuse.
Objection!
Except we have supporting testimony that these two actually went east. Reasons to doubt that the witnesses saw something related to their case are much more simple. Ample. It's admittedly not worth it to dismiss these two just yet. Ideally, we want to find even more conclusive differences. So I found a contradiction, and he just used it against me. At least we're not out of time yet. Maybe I can work out where these two really saw what. Whether it's the same thing as our crime or not. Just have to keep looking. The more I find, the more to work with later. Alright. Okay, we're back to the beginning now. Gunshot.
Hold it!
Please try to remember. I'm trying, I assure you. When exactly did you hear this gunshot? Just then. After. The terrible thing, I think. So much happened at once. You must understand, I've never seen anything like that. Okay. But you know you ran away after that. Yeah? I'm afraid I'm not the most courageous individual. Didn't seem to have stopped you from going outside the wall in the first place. Anyway, everything still feels like a little bit hazy after that. I just wanted to get away from what was happening there. So I can't remember anything else aside from what you mentioned. What are you hiding? I saw nothing else. At the crime scene. Directly. Somehow he seems to be very afraid of telling us about something. It doesn't look like I'll be able to get it out of him right now. Are you sure you haven't forgotten anything else? I might need a moment to think this over. Yeah, chances are there's some stuff missing from his account. Well, I should just work with what I have right now, and hope he'll sort it out. Alright, you got them now. The rest is easy. Not entirely sure how I got them. Pointed out an inconsistency, but it's not like they lied. Not like they should be able to lie. So what? Contradiction is a contradiction. Keep pointing them out, and we'll set sail for the good end. In this case, it's advisable to focus on the difference to previous testimonies. Easy to say. It sounds pretty similar to what we've been hearing all day. Though it's hard to keep all the minor details in mind. What? Need a reminder how the previous testimonies went? Don't tell us you can't even do the easy memory-based contradictions. Well, I guess you could look up the protocol for me. So, I guess I still got this. No, I don't think I need a reminder for now. That's the spirit. I mean, there might be direct issues with the court record, too. A lot of their wording could be taken multiple ways. I'm not sure I should probably press them. Press, and if they don't fess, make a mess. I like it. Curious way to put it, but sure. I do want to know just what is going on here. Alright.
Hold it!
Alright, let's figure this out. He told you that before running away. No, not quite. More accurate to say he did while running away. Because he definitely didn't waste any time with that. So he was pretty much already gone by the time he told you. Yeah, out of sight 1 second later. And just what did you do then? Well, I did as he said. Get back to town and inform the authorities. Then I waited for Maxwell to return to town. Despite him being gone before you even started going back, you were back by the time he arrived in town. How? Take a guess. Right. Teleportation. I'm trying to keep it together for the sake of getting through this testimony. In this case, it's not the game. It's me legitimately having an awful night's sleep past 2 nights and doing a bit of recording on a Sunday, and this is starting to catch up to me right now. Right. Teleportation. I did have the presence of mind to think of that. A little ironic, right? I wanted her to come along just so we could get back that way. Well, we didn't quite encounter what we expected, so... We didn't. We definitely found a slicer plate, though. Anyway, that answers that. Police received a phone call at around 0:13 a.m. confirming this part further. Yes, that was me. Being an upstanding citizen and telling the authorities. It did allow us to take action within a fairly reasonable time span. Seeing how the other witness probably would have never reported it. As far as I'm concerned, none of the witnesses are particularly cooperative. You got them. Oh, okay. Gotta go through this. Okay.
Hold it!
You can say this couldn't have happened in the East Ruins.
Objection!
What is going to happen in the East? Okay. I'm gonna say no here. Actually, I don't think I need to take their word for it. The events these people witnessed may not have transpired the way they did in the East. That can't be right. A plain man like me can't understand what you mean. I take it you can show us with evidence the problem with the claim of this happening in the East. Simple enough. It's a very straightforward way to show it. All these things happen in the East. That's what have caused a massive problem. I assume for the fact that they're making noise, and slicers are blind, and rely on noise. Oh, that was a quick save. So we're gonna do Monster Guide. Ruins are ruined, but there's a key difference between them. Yes, I believe we discussed this a few minutes ago. Going to the east because that's where slicers are encountered. Don't see how this creates any sort of issue. Consider the events in their testimony. In an area filled with slicers, this would have caused a massive problem. A gun.
Objection!
A fucking gun. It's true, ruins are ruins. However, there's a big difference between east and west. They're inhabitants. If you'd really heard a gunshot in the east, you'd have been greeted with a horde of slicers. What? We all know the key differences here. Unlike haunters, slicers have ears, and very good ones at that. Shot from a shotgun, I think it's pretty much certain some of them would have heard it. A plain man like me doesn't understand, but it's still what happened. We went to the east. This is on the verge of being a contradiction. It certainly seems to support the fact that all of this happened in the west after all. However, unlikely as it is, there's still a small chance none of them heard it. Let's return to this testimony. Well, either way, it's not enough to figure out what's going on here quite yet. Time to try and find more inconsistencies. Alright, East Ruins. If they saw it. They identified this as the victim. What is the suspect doing?
Objection!
Something like that should be brought up here. You just stated you saw the victim, Titus Ronos. Just standing in the middle of the place right before the murder. Yes, in the place where he then was killed. I see. The issue is, this directly contradicts the defendant's testimony. His honest confession. Really? What is the defense getting at? The defendant testified that he encountered the victim in that place. This is about some details of the position. Let me quote from the defendant's testimony. How'd it go again? And there was light coming from an open door. Master Onus was standing over a corpse with a gun. Yeah, what Ray said. Thank you, Ray, for grimoiring it for me. So what did this suggest? When Nils entered the place, the victim was standing inside the house, near that mysterious corpse you like to ignore. Oh, I'm sure even a plain man like you can see the issue. You claim you saw the victim from the street you were standing in. But if he was standing inside the house, it should have been impossible. What you should have seen is the defendant following the victim rushing at, followed by the victim rushing at him from the right. But why is this happening? I need some popcorn. It should be clear that these two testimonies aren't compatible.
Objection!
True, it's an inconsistency. It may suggest these two witnessed something entirely different after all. After all, they cannot possibly be lying. However, we cannot be quite sure, can we? He could just have been a little mistaken about what he saw. It was pretty dark, and the whole thing must have frightened him. Miss Porter, what do you have to say to this? Me? I'd suggest you stick to what Mr. Maxwell has to say. But you were there with him. We should be glad we have two witnesses instead of just Talia. On the other hand, if I may, I was fairly sure that was what I saw was the victim. Must have confused him and the defendant. Their frames and faces are entirely different. You could hardly confuse a grown man with a teenager. In the dark, it's all possible. Mr. Maxwell, are you sure you can't think of a better explanation to this? I am very sorry. I just can't. It's odd. He seems to be trembling. It's the same look he had when we met him at the gate yesterday. He knows something. Something he hasn't told us yet. If there is no explanation, we can only take notes of it and move on. For now. I must understand. I'm interested in the inconsistencies as much as you are. However, we should not rush ahead and conclude something from it just yet. Okay, I really need to end this off. I'm about to crash. And I want to tackle the rest of this at full stamina.